I said 5 in the morning. I wake up to 5 for my yearnings. The fear in my mind is a warning. Pray to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. I tried to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. I tried to get by, but I'm burning. And behind my mind, it runs. All these thoughts have trouble me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need, right? Yeah, I really need time now. I need to free mind now. I really need mine now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need to free mind now. I really need mine now, yeah. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Send me a love that you cannot mix. One is the joy that you cannot waste, and the other one price that you cannot fix. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Finding a way when you cannot see. Man with this system, he cannot pray. I need to find relief. But behind my mind, it runs. All these thoughts have trouble me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need, right? Yeah, I really need mine now. I need to free mine now. I really need time now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need to free mine now. I really need time now.
Your ex-man looking at me funny and I got it to me. Mong I'm jelly go to my sing I'm different thing funny boo. As a song marang nandaba. I can put you on. Wanna go nyala. Tangle in the mouth. I'm on just ngai London. Speaking up a share see him malanda. Baby want me. Mas lela na mono my kel one sweet. Better tell him it's more than love. This lang and see. Lo lai. Mele super. Beg when I wait, woman never look back. I shall pass, you told me cause you know I want you.
Ngithatha ngibeke ebasihlukanisa uthando lugcwele ngicela ubapheke izitele ozigcwele ungavumi izingene athi ngikusele athi ngikusele uthando lakho mina ngawe ngigcwele ngiyakutshela sange bangifaka umoya ngawe ngayifela mangithi ngiyaphuma ngiyofuna amasenta uze wena nomndeni wami nibedese dala ngikufuna ngayithela manje usungowami inhliziyo ifudumele phela amaphutha ngalingasese njalo manginawe ngizizwa ngiphelele ngithi uthanda mina phela kungashintshi yangisanganisa fana nawe angekaphinda bekhona kulelizwe kukhona okuthize ngathi ngikuhlile ungenza ngibize ngithi uthanda mina phela kungashintshi yangisanganisa singanqoba nempisi ngayihlanganisa kukhona okuthize ngathi ngikuhlile ungenza ngiphile ngithatha ungibeke ebasihlukanisa uthando lugcwele ngicela ubapheke izitele ozigcwele ungavumi izingene athi ngikusele athi ngikusele athi ngikusele uthando lakho lumenza ngishelela
angicabanga wena njalo sengaba follow baby lalela isikhathi awusathe ngiyayino awuthando
more life, pink ting a sight for sore eyes. Dark days, friends with you, it's alright. Turn that pain to fuel to survive. Ooh, now I'm stronger. Backstage in the coupe like Lusher. Spin moves in the paint like Jordan. Girlfriend on the bullshit, that's Taurus. Star signs, pull up and shine at Nostra. Galaxy boy, that's culture. I've been on top for a long time. Champion shit, so my beat combines. People say hip-hop died, that's nonsense. Thank God they showed their true colors. Switched up piano like bugs. All in my feelings, I can't conceal it. I take it all away. I'm playing hard to get. This life is different. It's risky business. Lemons to lemonade. Lemons to lemonade. It tracks suit, Versace. Pull out the set. Zip up the off-white, up to the neck. Turn up the AC, it's hot in the sack. Call up the slay queens, pull out the ace. Track suit, Versace, pull out the set. Zip up the off-white, up to the neck. Turn up the AC, it's hot in the sack. Call up the slay queens, pull out the ace. Ooh, ooh.
Our 10th annual Jamboree and our first in person since 2019, Innova Jam brings together over 1,300 aspiring entrepreneurs from our programs in a celebration of our entrepreneurial community.
It's extremely exciting to see the community come together.
The energy, it's more vibrant, and I feel like entrepreneurship is actually happening in this space.
Our aim is to provide a platform for our program participants to produce 1,000 ideas that will lead to job creation and improve the lives of ordinary South Africans in the long term through innovative entrepreneurial solutions.
Everyone deserves a platform for their ideas to be heard.
It's actually really inspirational when you hear about the things that people have actually done. The first step is just sharing your idea with someone. It purposefully pushes you into that space.
Meeting people with so much knowledge just really opened my mind to a lot more possibilities.
You know, we've seen some of the businesses that have been born from Jamboree. Now they're actual ventures solving real community problems.
There's a lot of passionate, talented young people who are passionate about changing South Africa. ask yourself the question, what is my community, my country, my continent struggling with that I could add value to by creating some innovative, sustainable response to? And how do I go about finding that answer?
To our community, this is your moment. You hold tomorrow in your hands. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do today to change it? How are you going to fulfill your responsibilities to your fellow South Africans?
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto stage your MCs, Enhle Bizana and Lusaqhuma Phakathi.
Everyone.
Siwara Alma.
Molweni.
Sanbonani.
Dumelang.
Abshen.
Yes. Good morning and welcome to everyone who is watching online and of course in person. This is an official welcome to InnoJam 2022. Before we get started, a special thank you to our DJ and of course the band who was playing outside. I think we can all agree we had our phones out, we were vibing, we were dancing. So can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so my name is Enhle Bizana. I am a year experience and I'm currently at UCT.
And I am Lusaqhuma Phakathi, a grade 11 bright spark from Pietermaritzburg.
Yes! So, guys, we have had an early morning. I woke up at 2:30 to do my makeup. Lusaqhuma was ironing her hair, her weave, and we did it all for you. We are your MCs this morning, so thank you so much for being here. Finally, after 2 years of having Jamboree online, I think we can all agree we're so excited to be a community and get together again, and of course, explore relationships and of course, network as well. Now, Lusa, we were communicating and we were chatting about how we want to make sure that over the next 2 days, there's lots of energy. So we're going to help you with that process, right? So we're going to have a bit of a competition, right? So we want to see who has the most energy between the scholars, the candidate fellows, and the fellows.
And it's obviously the scholars, guys. True.
No!
Yeah.
I think she's just being biased towards her people, but we'll have to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to say scholars, candidate fellows, or fellows, and you're going to scream as loudly as possible, and then we are going to choose who that winner is. So, Lusa, who should start?
I think it should be the fellows. Show us how it's done.
Okay, fellows, 3, 2, 1, let's hear from you. How?
Okay.
Fellows, come on.
Fellows.
But it's fine. Who's next? I think it should be my people. Candidate fellows, let's hear from you. Yes! Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Yeah. Lusa, listen to my people. Listen to my people.
I can hear your
Those
people.
are my people. Okay.
All right. It was fair. Now, scholars, we're the youngest. We're the most vibrant.
I don't know. Lusa, okay. Lusa, who do you think is the winner?
It's obvious. It's the scholars.
Guys. No. But you know what? Unfortunately, scholars, there's no prizes for you, but you do get bragging rights.
And we will use the bragging rights.
Right?
We will.
Yes. Now, with every fun event, unfortunately or fortunately, there are those two people who have to stand in front of you and say the house rules. And, you know, we are those people for today.
Yeah, we're taking over so that you don't have to.
Yeah.
We will be the bad guys. Okay, so firstly, all mobile cell phones have to be on silent, and that everyone is encouraged to interact, support, encourage all the speakers and entertainment throughout InnovaJam. Okay.
Absolutely. And of course, we all know COVID-19 has not gone away, so we need to make sure that throughout the course of today and tomorrow, you're sanitizing your hands as much as possible. If you see a friend doing it, if you see a fellow candidate, fellow scholar, please sanitize your hands as well. If you feel at any point you want to wear a mask, there are masks available for you outside. If you feel ill at any point, there are first aiders who can assist you as well. And then, of course, all of you would have received this red band over here. You need to ensure that you're wearing these red bands throughout the course of today as well as tomorrow. If you didn't receive it, please speak to your PO and they should be able to assist you, right?
All right. The Achiever platform is your go-to platform throughout the event. You'll receive all important information and details on anything on the app. Please note that we do not have a push notification messages, so you have to constantly check the platform.
Absolutely.
Lastly, it is a dry event, so no alcohol will be allowed.
No alcohol will be allowed. Now, Lusa, we live in a social media world, right? Yes, so we love posting, and so we are going to be encouraging you to please post as much as possible. We are at Alan Gray Orbis Foundation on all our platforms, and of course, we're #InnovaJam on our social media platforms as well. We're having a really cool competition. There are 4 prizes that are going to be going to certain people. So the first category is the best selfie. So practice your selfie game if you want to be the winner of that, okay? Number 2, it's going to be the most creative Instagram story. The third one is going to be the social media influencer award. So that's basically someone who can get the most likes. And the last award is going to go to someone who was known as the journalist of the past 2 days. So essentially, that's someone who is posting informational content rather than just posting just for nje, you know? So make sure that you do tag Alan Gray Orbis Foundation if you do want to be part of those winners. I know I've been posting since I was on the plane. Lusa, have you been posting? How, girl? Oh, you're embarrassing us. Guys, don't be a Lusa and post, please. But as we all know, Alan Gray Orbis Foundation is all about community and, of course, encouraging entrepreneurship. Can you believe it's been 10 full years of Jamboree? Woo! I want to see, yes, round of applause to that, yeah. Who has been here since the very first Jamboree? How? We
have an MG. Oh gosh,
do we have an OG
in the house?
Anyway here? Okay. Oh, we see there's 2 OGs. Can you stand up for us? We want to see you. Yes? Guys, please give them a round of applause. Okay. So to commemorate those 10 years of Jamboree, we want to come up with 1,000 ideas to try and solve unemployment in our country, as well as all the other issues that we're currently facing, and of course, making the lives of our people better. So if you do have an idea, please go on the Achiever platform and tell us what your idea is so that by tomorrow at 1:45 p.m., we know what those 1,000 ideas are. So please, if you have an idea, even take out your phone now, and you can definitely do that.
So, Alan Gray Orbis Foundation is an amazing platform, and in order for us to be as successful as a program, we've had to have amazing leaders, one of which is our current CEO as of 2017. Well, our CEO serves in the boards of the Squared Investments, the Aspen Global Institute South Africa, and the Aspen Network Development of Entrepreneurs. So our multi-talented CEO is an active member of the YPO, as well as she leads the diversity and inclusion portfolio.
Absolutely. She's amazing. She actually has an MBA from Gibbs. She also has an honors degree in development studies, and she also has a bachelor's degree from UNISA. In her free time, she loves to be adventurous. She's been shark cage diving. She's been bungee jumping, but she told us to tell you, don't push her off the edge of, a bridge. She's not that adventurous. Please help me welcome the CEO of Alan Gray Orbis Foundation, Yogaveli Namber.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto stage Yogaveli Nambia.
Hello everyone. Can you still see me? Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're loving the hairstyle, thanks to Nontando. All just for you. So welcome to Innova Jam. And it's not just any jamboree, as we've just heard mentioned, it's our 10th one for the foundation. And it's wonderful to see you all in person again after 3 years. It truly fills my heart, and I'm sure all of you are really excited and energized by all the connections and having everyone here in person. So I feel that on its own requires some applause, right? So can we hear more noise? There's just nothing to beat human connection. And there's nothing to make you feel more grateful for presence, for togetherness, and connectedness like a complete lockdown on movement, on in-person interaction, and on everything that we once took for granted. So thank you all for being here. It's really super exciting to be in the room with all of you, to be able to kickstart our jamborees again. And we have close to 800 people. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And thank you also to our amazing foundation team that put this together, that have been working tirelessly for the past few months to make sure that everyone gets here safely, gets here on time, that you have an agenda and a program of value, and that you're going to have fun and gain insights over the next few days. So can we have a round of applause for them? So everyone who knows me knows that I'm a major proponent for optimism and gratitude, and we do have much to lift our spirits in the country. The unrelenting goodwill of many good South Africans, which was evidenced during the last few years, the power and freedom of the South African media. It was the work of a group of journalists that uncovered layers behind state capture. The liberalness of our constitution and the continued movement towards fully realizing its promise. As a sad contrast, think about Mahsa Amini and all those who have not enjoyed the rights we do. The picking up of our tourism sector and the fact that we have tourist destinations like Cape Town and Kruger National Park that continue to get awards as some of the best to visit globally. And despite the challenges of operating through a pandemic, 87% of South African small businesses were optimistic about their outlook for 2022. And nearly 2/3 reported growth over the last year. This is according to the latest annual South African State of Small Business report. 1/3 of the businesses are preparing to expand into new markets compared to just 15% the year before. And of course, we have to mention that South Africa's first unicorn, Go1, was co-founded by an Alan Gray fellow, Melvin Lubega. Yes. And then, of course, there's the Mtandazo collab with John Legend, The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of. I mean, I wanted to be him even though I can't sing. And 2 years later, my team is still trying to get me to give up on Jerusalema being my favorite jam. So we should not lose hope. There is much to bring joy. But that said, I agree that it's not all roses. There are many challenges we face, and we can't gratitude our way out of the massive disparities in the country. There's still much work to be done. Besides dealing with the global pandemic, we've dealt with a lot on the local front. The unemployment crisis and rampant inequality made worse by COVID. You know, sadly, SASSA status check was the most searched item on Google in South Africa last year, serving as a heartbreaking proof point of the high level of inequality. There's been gender-based violence, the missing Phala millions, load shedding, the list goes on. And the COVID-19 crisis has weakened our already fragile economy. South Africa's GDP per capita was already lower in 2019 than in 2008 before COVID hit. The craziness of our time has reinforced the importance of our work at the foundation. We hold Mr. Gray's call to action to attack poverty front of mind as we go about creating and delivering on our strategy. The Alan Gray Group of Philanthropies has taken this mandate seriously. As you might know, the group consists of the Alan and Jill Gray Philanthropy Africa, that's headed up by Anthony Farr, and that drives the family's philanthropic footprint across the continent. There's the Alan and Jill Gray Philanthropy South Africa, headed up by Zimkita Peter, and that seeks to support the ecosystem for entrepreneurs. There's E Squared, which is an impact investor and whose CEO is Malik Fall. That works on building and growing fellow businesses. And of course, there's yours truly, the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation, which is focused on identifying and nurturing entrepreneurial change makers. So over the last few years, we've invested time and effort into the integration of our work towards a consolidated theory of change, ensuring a shared vision and identity, a more aligned strategic focus, a common culture, and greater operational efficiencies by the four entities working together. So together we aim to make a meaningful contribution to social change in our country. But to truly realize this impact, the foundation has to work closely with our key partners on this journey, our program participants. You are truly at the heart of the change we foresee. And your personal development, the strong academic foundation, holistic well-being, and your practical, relevant, and robust entrepreneurship education is vital for us. We want you to be future-proofed with the right mindset, skills, and knowledge, and armed with strong values and a spirit of significance beyond personal wealth and fame. We are proud of your resilience through a very challenging time and context, and how you've continued to show up in different ways. You will see that there are many ventures that have been created by our candidate fellows and fellows. Even some of our scholars have side hustles. So well done for that. There have been some businesses that closed during COVID and lockdown, but the efforts applied by our participants have been inspirational. And not just in business, but in school, in university, and in all our work environments, your ability to rise up has been what's gotten you closer to your goals. It has also been inspiration for the foundation to really pivot around what we do and just iterating, experimenting, trying new things to ensure that we deliver value to you in the best possible way. That ability is vital for your continued thriving. Now, I understand that there are times where you may feel like everything is a struggle and that you are doing anything but thriving. Please be kind to yourself. The environment is tough. The context and the time that we live in has many challenges, and you are negotiating and persevering through various academic or work demands, psychosocial difficulties, personal priorities, and all the additional requirements in your life, including the foundation's expectations. And yet here you are, today, still showing up, still trying, still smiling. So don't overweigh the negatives and undercount the positives in your life. And in honor of all those we've lost along the way, in honor of all those who've supported your journey to this point, and in honor of your future self, who is dependent on the choices you make every day, I ask you to keep showing up, to keep trying, and to keep smiling. And we are here to help. When you don't feel like doing any of those things, reach out. Today and tomorrow, present an opportunity to reconnect with others in the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation community, scholars, candidate fellows, and fellows, to fill your cup of love, energy, and inspiration, to share experiences and to build your entrepreneurial mindset. It's all about the celebration of innovation of action and the implementation of ideas. There will be different pitching events, and you've heard a little bit about it now, and various opportunities to learn and grow with a like-minded community. Innovation is at the core of entrepreneurship, and it is spurred by curiosity, so stay curious through this process. Times of uncertainty call for innovation, which is critical for survival and progress. During lockdown, a pharmacy chain and logistics provider announced that they would begin delivering prescription medicine to vulnerable communities, including retirement homes, by drone. A passenger airline shifted to cargo-only flights when passenger demand collapsed. And a hotel chain offered workspaces at day rates for professionals who were unable to go work from their offices. So there is this Chinese proverb that goes, when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. So which do you want to build? That proverb, actually, it reminds me of William Kamkwamba, you know, the Malawian social innovator. We've spoken about him before, who literally built a windmill. And that too from waste material in his rural village. And the problem he was trying to solve for was that the village was drought-stricken, etc., and they weren't able to grow their crops and all of that. So he used the windmill to pump water from the ground. In the book, Iconic Innovations, the author profiles 75 inspiring innovations and looks for the common threads between them, one of which is that problems are a source of opportunity. That's how Diners Club was founded, because the entrepreneur realized that he didn't have cash to pay at a restaurant. Or how ATMs was created because someone found that they needed, they weren't able to go to a bank during office hours. And actually that idea of the money dispenser was based on, a chocolate vending machine. And Sarah Blakely created Spanx because she wanted pantyhose without the foot section. So simple, everyday problems with solutions that now might seem obvious. Great serial innovators in the fields of architecture and furniture, Charles and Ray Eames, were big proponents of learning by doing, of collaboration and consultation. And their fundamental philosophy was to never delegate understanding. Mentorship has also helped innovators through their journeys. An example of this is the Dutch coffee trader Alfred Piet, who had set up a shop in Berkeley, met these young entrepreneurs and became a supplier and mentor to them, and they launched their own coffee chain called Starbucks. The point of these examples is to show you that many of the elements for successful innovation exist and are available to you. Solving problems close to your heart or to simple everyday issues, being willing to experiment and thus to risk failure, to collaborate and actively seek wisdom from others, and mentorship, which is even provided to you by the foundation. So let us not slip into a learned helplessness in times of uncertainty and complexity, and enable our inaction by using excuses for other people's success or for our lack of movement, such as, oh, she's smarter than me, oh, he has a rich uncle, oh, they live in that neighborhood, or they know that person. Sure, all of those things may be true, and they may have some impact, but most people who have been successful have undergone huge adversity, and they just have the mindset to be curious, to seek problems and opportunities, to learn, to innovate, to experiment, to fail, and to try again. So use what is available to you, create what is not, and start exercising that innovation muscle. I'm really excited for what lies ahead. The future of 2023 and beyond looks interesting, and we have the opportunity to build back stronger, to go from now to better. There are many trends that we can capitalize on, but two that got my attention and that I've been hearing about quite a bit recently. Firstly, I was so inspired by my assistant, Marcia, who was passionately explaining to some of our executives over dinner a few nights ago the opportunities that blockchain and Bitcoin hold, and her personal experience with building value via these technologies. I was just blown away. There are so many other new disruptive technologies using AI that are being created too, and I'm enjoying learning about them. Secondly, there's an even greater focus on ESG, environment, social governance, and creating social value within the private sector, and a growing recognition of the role and the contribution of the social economy globally. As a self-described social change activist and impact entrepreneur, I'm keen to see how this growing consciousness translates and what it means for our work at the foundation. So there's a lot to be excited about, a lot to be curious about. So I'm going to give you a last bit of advice, which is to build your range of knowledge. Don't only read, learn, or engage on topics you already know about or are comfortable with. Broaden your brain's ability to create connections between different areas. That's what biomimicry is, which I'm hugely fascinated with right now and reading about. And it's basically the use of models and systems and elements of nature for the purpose of solving complex human problems. So your ability to innovate different solutions, especially in times of uncertainty, will come from you having not just depth, but breadth of understanding, and being able to play with and transfer that knowledge between spaces. And maybe use the technique mentioned by author Tim Harford in his TEDx talk, which is slow motion multitasking. This is where you don't multitask on activities at the same time, so it's not like WhatsApping during class. Don't do that. But rather pausing one project and working on another for a while, which enables your brain to subconsciously create connections between the various topics. It's the method that Einstein and Darwin, among others, have used. Finally, as Socrates, the philosopher, said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but building the new. So we look forward to helping you build the life, the society, and the future we all desire. Let the innovation, InnovaJam games begin. Let the innovation begin. Thank you all and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Yogi. I think we can all agree that there's something that we can take from what you've said to us today. You're so wise, and we're so happy to have you as our CEO here at Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. For me personally, one thing that I think I took from what you were saying was that at the heart of the change we foresee is us as scholars, candidate fellows, and fellows. And I think for me, that means that in whatever industry that we find ourselves in the future, whether it's business, engineering, entertainment, whatever it is, we need to remember that we're responsible for future generations and the change that we would like to see in our country. So hopefully today you can leave remembering that, and if there's just one thing that you can gain from that, it's what Yogi was saying to us. So thank you again.
Okay, now we're going to have a panel of African innovators. To facilitate this panel, we have Nontando Mthethwa, who is the head of public affairs as well as communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto stage Nontando Mthethwa.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. As indicated, my name is Nontando Mthethwa. I don't mean to be rude to the guys sitting on my, I went to Bantu school, so we go like this to remind ourselves if it's right or left, but on my right-hand side, sorry to have my back towards you. We are going to be having a discussion with some of our fellows who are doing extremely wonderful work in the areas that they're currently operating in. We felt it important to have this discussion, especially because they've walked the journey that all of you are currently pursuing and have really looked at how to leverage innovation in their businesses so that they can make a positive contribution to society and the customer segments they serve. So I'm so excited to host this panel. We are going to have Dineo Leoma, who's the founder and CEO at Deep Medical Therapeutics. Dineo is an Ellen Gray Fellow, a scientist and astute businesswoman, having founded 3 companies in the scientific sphere. She counts as inspiration her exposure to the commercial aspect of science while studying towards her MPhil degree in microtechnology and nanotechnology at Cambridge University in the United Kingdom. So I trust that she'll be bringing quite a lot of wisdom. We're also going to be having Daniel Ndima. Daniel is also an Ellen Gray Fellow. He is also a scientist who specializes in structural biology of infectious diseases. He is a protein engineer. It's the first time I've heard of this. Trained in protein crystallography, pronouncing it, he'll pronounce it better than me, bioprocess engineering and biomanufacturing. He has a bachelor and honors degree in biotechnology and a master's degree in structural biology. Third on the panel is Melvin Lubega, and Yogi has mentioned that he's the co-founder of GoOne, one of the first South African companies that has gone, I'm trying to remember the term, unicorn, yes, last year, and extremely proud of the milestone that he has achieved. He's a fellow and actuary by training and is an experienced technology entrepreneur and executive who has built businesses that serve customers across the world. He is also a reference thought leader and invited speaker both abroad and locally on digital transformation, disruptive innovation, the future of the workforce, as well as business strategy. So please join me in welcoming our panel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto stage Dineo Leoma, Melvin Lubega, Daniel Ndima, and facilitator Nontando Mthethwa.
I think they deserve another round of applause. Thank you very much. So on stage, we've got Dineo and Daniel. Melvin is joining us online. Melvin has been globe-trotting. When I spoke to him earlier this week, he was in Poland. And then at some time during the week, he was in France. And today, he's in London. So we are very happy that he could find time for us in an obviously busy schedule that he's pursuing. But perhaps just to start off with, if you could share a little bit, Dineo and Daniel, on how you got to join the foundation and perhaps a little bit of your experience with the foundation.
Sure. So I joined when I was in high school, going into first year. And I remember I had, participated in a high school project where it was business related. And funny enough, I never really thought of business as an agent to change society. So I really think it was by chance that I was even involved in this project. And then afterwards, my teacher came up to me and said, there's this scholarship, Ellen Gray, you'd be a great fit, you should definitely apply. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, they pay for my school fees, which is great. But at that time, obviously, I didn't know about, the bigger picture of what the foundation has to offer. So that was in 2007, and I joined in 2008, so that was a while ago, guys. And I went over to study engineering at WITS. I studied materials engineering. And funny enough is that when I started my engineering field, my mindset was really, I would say, narrow at that point in time. You know, I was really more concerned about, you know, obviously being the best at my particular industry, which was engineering at the time. And really being able to afford a good life for myself and my family. And, you know, some of us, you know, we have to really take our families out of poverty and really try and make an impact. Maybe some of us were even like the first to go overseas and go, you know, get a master's degree. So there were those kind of generational curses that I was like, oh, you know, bondage that I was trying to break within my family. And I really didn't think of, you know, the bigger picture. And sometimes, you know, you even see things like poverty, illness in society, and you think that, you know, it's just part of like, you know, the moral fabric of society, or, you know, how society should be like. And, you know, coming into the foundation really helped to change my mindset in that regard. You know, I started to see that something such as entrepreneurship can make a difference in society. You know, we can actually actively, you know, make a change, you know, come up with business ideas that change healthcare, you know, change society, create employment. And I'm personally really grateful for the foundation for really opening up my mind, because instead of now focusing solely on my family and what I can do for them in my immediate circle, it opened up my mind to now think about, you know, South Africa, to think about nations, to think about Africa. And, you know, every single day I'm committed. When I wake up, I'm like, you know what, Africa is that space that I'm determined to change, and specifically in healthcare. And I'm so passionate about it, and I'm really, really grateful for the foundation for just really helping me to open up my mind and realize that, you know, there is a world of possibilities.
No, thank you. And I think a little bit about Dineo, which I forgot to share on the intro, is that she's also now a board member of the Ellen and Jill Gray Philanthropy South Africa. So she's contributing quite immensely to the work of the foundation and paying it forward. Daniel.
Thank you for the opportunity. You know, every time I speak after Dineo, it's a problem. And someone once said that you and Dineo are a dangerous combination. But just to respond to your first question, I think I joined the foundation when I was doing first year. You know, as a scientist who, you know, sort of specialized in the biological space, I always wanted to start a business. You know, this started back then in high school, where, you know, I wanted to venture into science and maths. And really, I was struggling to figure out what that will be. Funny enough, there was an email that was sent from the university portal to students, and I saw this Allen Gray Obis Foundation, scholarship, entrepreneurial, and I said, that's the one. You know, the amount of time we take to pray to enter into these kind of opportunities, you know, goes, you know, from yourself, your mother, your grandmother, your uncle, aunt. You know, we really, you know, need opportunities like this. So I applied, and I thought that at the time that the kind of business that I will start, you know, would be, you know, anything that has to do with, you know, being, you know, providing medicine. And because we are rough diamonds and we need to be polished, I think the foundation did that fundamentally. You know, having mentors, you know, that were guiding, you know, us. You know, I started 3 businesses when I was still at varsity, and all of them failed. And the reason why they failed is not because they were not competent enough to be businesses, because I needed to pay attention to my personal development goals, and to also ensure that part of doing that is you know, is part of the lessons that I have to learn, so that I sharpen my mind, you know, so that the moment I start a business in the mainstream, at least those tools I have garnered. So for me, it was, you know, going through, you know, paces with the foundation and ensuring that I sharpen my thinking and my ability to navigate the innovations ecosystem, because in a biotech space, you know, there isn't anyone that you can learn from locally. So it was very difficult to figure out how one needs to position. But thanks to the foundation, you know, the shift in mind actually assisted me to navigate the landscape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll cross over to Melvin, and perhaps Melvin, you can tell us as well in terms of how you got to join the foundation, and perhaps touching a little bit as well on what type of support received from the foundation was most meaningful to you. So Melvin, I'm not sure if it's our tech or you're on mute. Okay, perhaps we'll give the tech team an opportunity to quickly get Melvin back online, but perhaps just to come back to you, Daniel, what would you say inspired your journey into entrepreneurship?
Chaos, I think. Chaos creates opportunities. You know, if you face inefficiency, you know, you are part of the family that we are in this hall, you tend to shift your thinking very quickly. You know, as a scientist working in a laboratory, I realized that, you know, almost everything, in fact, everything, 100% of everything that we use is imported. And we are being taught to develop the same tools. And my thinking was, you know, why are we relying on importation, yet we have skills to develop these tools? And I realized also that in the mainstream biotechnology, it's the same thing. You speak about medicine, we don't produce active pharmaceutical ingredients as a country that has, you know, thousands and thousands of scientists, engineers, and technologists, and I wondered why. So I wanted to do something that fit within my, you know, space, my ability to learn and also, you know, infuse some of these techniques, you know, not only using my qualification as a base, but also expanding and using, learning from other people as well. So I had to figure out, you know, how I can best position the technologies that I develop for local market, but with the international outlook. So I had to respond to the inefficiency, chaos that we faced in waiting 3 months or 6 months for reagents to arrive for us to study. And at times we have graduates that would extend their degrees by 3 to 4 years, meaning honors, masters and PhDs, because of lack of reagents. So I wanted to respond to that as a start. Thank you.
Great. And also answering the same question, Dinewo, with regards to what inspired you into entrepreneurship, but what has kept you going? Because you've started quite a number of initiatives already. By 29, you had already started 3 businesses. So perhaps a little bit of insight on that.
Sure. So to answer your last question, what really keeps me going is really my faith in God. I really believe that... No, thank you for that. I'm just one person that I really don't shy away from really professing as to what keeps me going. My faith has played such an important role in what I do, where I am right now, and in fact, everything that I've achieved. So I cannot keep that a secret. So yeah, so, you know, every day it just goes back to, you know, purpose as well, you know. I really believe that God has brought me here for a reason, and for me, my mission is to make an impact in healthcare, specifically in Africa, particularly because health is our wealth, right? Yes. So if you're not healthy as an individual, there's so many other spheres that it impacts. So if, you know, and I really believe that this is an issue that's so close to God. So when I wake up in the morning, you know, this is what really fuels me. And how that helps me is that, you know, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you really go through some challenges where, you know, either that, you know, you run out of money, or, you know, your business idea fails and you have to keep on pivoting. But if you have that North Star that you're always pointing towards, which is bigger than you, it really keeps you going. And I think, as I mentioned, I attribute that to my faith.
Great, great. Thank you for that. Melvin, I understand we have you back, so hopefully we really have you back. So perhaps just... You know, this time they thought we will make sure you hear him. So Melvin, perhaps just a little bit about how you got to join the foundation, and also perhaps just touching on some of your highlights with Go1. Last year, you guys were listed as a unicorn, and perhaps just how that has been, and perhaps something that will inspire some of our aspiring entrepreneurs in terms of taking that first step into entrepreneurship.
No, thank you very much, Tando. And it's very tough speaking after, I think, Dineo and Dan as well, because if I think about my entry point into the foundation, it was an interesting one because I was walking around a school fair, and then I think at the time Allan Gray had some really nice, gifts out, and I approached them. It wasn't necessarily that I was as clinical and targeted as they were, but I think something which has been true in our entrepreneurial journey, and something which I believe quite deeply in terms of our journey at Go1, is that success often comes when opportunity meets preparation. And so I couldn't have timed bumping into Allan Gray and getting to know the organization. But because I was prepared for that, I was able to, and back then at least, been able to get into the actual foundation. And so for us, I think in our journey, it's often the function of how are we preparing above where we are today and where we want to be. And so my career ambition is to create 100,000 jobs. And so we've got a very long way out to get there. We only have 650 employees in Go1. But it's really thinking through, I think Dineo nailed it, in terms of having an impact greater than just yourself. I think all of us in the room today have been very blessed to get the support and the funding of a scholarship such as Allan Gray. And for me, it was a question of how do you pay that forward? And so in the Go1 journey, it's been a function of having a global scale, and we're very proud to have teams across 14 countries that we support, but in the same vein, being able to have an impact through our product itself. And so we work with probably now today over 6 million individual learners around the world. And so just making sure that we can do output towards that. And so what I guess inspires me is that need and desire to give back more than has been given to me. And so I think taking my space, technology enables that to be the case.
Perfect. Just to touch a little bit as well in terms of some of your highlights within the entrepreneurship space, what are some of the highlights that you would lift?
It's me first. Yeah, I'll speak for a lot of scientists that are here and engineers that want to venture into biotechnology space. To start a biotech startup is quite expensive and very difficult. Anywhere you go in the world, it's not very easy. Because of regulations that are there, because you're dealing with human lives. I think the biggest highlight for me was when we realized that, we could start a company not following the procedures of the industry, but starting it lean without necessarily, leveraging big funds. I remember my first pitch was to pitch for 150 million as a master's graduate speaking to someone who has the money. It looked like I was crazy, but finding ways and unique ways of actually bootstrapping your idea, through different ecosystems. I think that was the navigation that I thought was a highlight for me to say, unlike other startups in developed countries in this space, this is how we are able to develop a company that has this kind of reputation without necessarily following those procedures and very stringent, investment framework, technology development framework, market readiness levels, and so forth. So for me, it was how we managed to build the company with the little that we have. Thank you.
Dineo?
Sure. So if you just would allow me, I actually have two, and I'm going to mention this one also in relation to Daniel. I think he's sometimes really, really quite humble. So for me, the first one would be, being a group of scientists when we're still at Cape Bio and having developed South Africa's first COVID test kit, especially when it was during the middle of the pandemic. He didn't mention that. If you look at the median age of the scientists who were in the team, I think it was around 27. We were young, the pressure was high. I mean, you can imagine when the pandemic first started, we were also stressed out. We didn't know what this disease meant, and we didn't have enough test kits. So really just rallying up, gathering together as a team, young people, guys, when they say the future is in the hands of young people, I think that's really just such a great an example to say that we as young people were totally capable of changing the world. We came together as a group of scientists and really just developed this test kit, and that's definitely the first highlight. And then the second highlight for me would be really just, it's not something necessarily material, but I remember this one time with my current company, so we offer pathology services, and there was this lady who had cancer, and, she had COVID for the first time, and she could tell that, she was really stressed out about it because she didn't know what it meant, and what does it mean if she tests positive, and because her immune system was also a bit compromised at the time. And for her, I remember just our nurses, being with her, counseling her, and at the end of the whole experience, you could see that in her eyes, there was like a lift in this heavy burden that she was carrying, because, by the way, we train our nurses to be, very empathetic, very friendly, and, just to see the impact of our service that can have on people, that's one of the things I'm like, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's really to impact people. So that one encounter really just imprinted on my mind and helps to keep me going.
Wow, that's very insightful. Melvin, just to come back to you as we're talking about impacts, and I mean what you guys achieved in terms of setting up the first rapid testing COVID kits. I mean, really making an impact on South Africa and the world at large, as far as I'm concerned. But also just reflecting in terms of, let's say it's 2030, you're reflecting on the impact that Mr. Gray had hoped this foundation would achieve when he first started it. As a community and for us as a foundation, the impact will be achieved through the community and not necessarily through us who work at the foundation. What would you say is the impact that you hope this community would be able to achieve in a couple of years' time to come?
I think the beauty of the community is the multiplier effect, in that the work that we do together, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. And so I would argue that by 2030, call it in 7 years' time, I think as a community, if we've created 1 million sustainable jobs, I think we would be a long way, not only towards, but excelling on the vision that Mr. Gray had for the community, but in the same vein, also being able to have a lasting impact in our ecosystems respectively.
Daniel, your thoughts in terms of the impact that you hope this community would help us to see in society?
I think it's more than we can imagine. Amongst us here, sitting here, there are those that will be way better than us sitting here. That's a fact. Once upon a time, I was sitting right there at the back. I never thought I'll be sitting front here. That's a reality. So you have to imagine beyond, the sort of the parafilm of your eye. You have to look beyond, what everyone else is seeing, and don't be apologetic for being different and for thinking differently, because that is your ignition right there. Use it, write it, and ensure that it elevates the impact that you want. I think out of this community, each and every person that is here has a potential to create at least minimum 20 jobs. If all of us use our talents and skills to ensure that we follow the path of great impact, I think we will change this country and this continent. I think we have the ability to do that.
And Dineo?
Sure. I actually share the same sentiments as Daniel and Melvin, and I think really that if I can reinforce this, that we actually have the power to change the world, and we have to believe it. If you don't see it in your own mind, then unfortunately it's not going to be possible. But we have the resources, guys. We have the ability as well. I remember going and studying overseas, and as an African student, thinking that, oh my gosh, students from MIT and Harvard are probably like smarter than me, and here I am as an African student, haven't gone to WITS, and I remember being in that situation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are actually on par. We can do the exact same thing, and if not better, because we've got limited resources, so we learn to be innovative, we can literally change the world. So if there's anything that you can take away from, just this panel discussion, especially from me, is that if you can believe it in your heart and in your mind, it is possible. And if it's just, if we can just even look at our lives, just believe that it's possible. Yes, you'll encounter challenges. That's part of the journey, but you overcome those challenges, and every time you come out as a stronger person. That's really my message, guys, is that if you can just believe that whatever you fathomed in your mind, you can achieve it, you can change the world.
So I would like to open up to you as well, if you'd like to ask our panel some questions. We've got 3 microphones along the, actually 2 microphones by the walkway. So if you don't mind just coming to the aisle, there's a microphone this side, and also if you from that side, using the microphone on the aisle. But I'd like to invite our community to please also have a say and get an opportunity to ask some of the questions that might help build your confidence along your journey as well. So, and when you ask your question, please introduce yourself and let us know if you're a scholar, candidate, fellow, and go right ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Karabo Mogasha. I am a candidate fellow at Stellenbosch University. I just have a question for Dineo about, you said that you started with engineering and it was good and you did all of that. I think this question is particularly for people who are on sort of fixed career paths. So things like accounting, things like law, where it seems like that's what you are going into. Like you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a lawyer, and especially when we're so young and we have so many ideas and so much that we want to pursue. What do you think are key things to strike that balance between you do need to finish your degree and do your articles and do whatever training you need to, but also be open to all the opportunity that life brings you and pursue your actual talents and your actual goals? Thank you.
Sure. No, thanks so much. That's actually such a good question because I know I struggled with it, when I was studying. And the first thing I'd like to say is there really is no fixed career. You could start with law and, venture into medicine or into accounting and engineering, I think it's really a matter of you really being open to that possibility. And one of the things I also learned is that in as much as, we go to university also equips you with the knowledge and the skills to actually go out and be an impactful person, right? So it's not necessarily always about what you've studied. Yes, it matters to a certain degree, but it's just about grooming and shaping you to be a different thinker, to be able to make those, that change in society. Now, I think don't be too afraid to change, but I would really suggest that, just finish. There's also something nice about finishing what you started. I remember there was a time I was doing, I've got another master's, and that one took me a while, and my mom was like, so the reason why I mentioned that is...
Dineo is not playing with us.
No, so the reason why I mentioned that was because, it took me a while because I was just and my mom was literally on my neck about it. She called me on Saturdays and are you working on your dissertation? Are you typing? What are you doing? And, at that time I was like, I don't really need this. I already have a master's from Cambridge. I don't need a second master's. And there was a power in finishing what you started. Yeah. And guys, I have to tell you, it's so nice when you tell people, hey guys, I've got 2 master's degrees, even though I struggled to finish it, right? But it was part of the journey, and it taught me to be disciplined and to finish what I started. And that's a life lesson, guys, that no one can ever take away from you. So yeah, that's just my encouragement to you.
Thanks.
Hi, can you hear me? There we go.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Nkateko. I'm a fellow. My question is for Daniel. Hi, guys, also. So you mentioned the moment where you found yourself pitching in front of, somebody for 150 million, and I think it would be really interesting to hear in that space where you were like, who am I and what am I doing here, and how did you actually get to that point?
You good? All right. So we are in Cape Town at one of the Rhodes Foundation events, and I see this gentleman, and we just have a chat. He asked me, what do you do? I say, I'm a scientist. I'm still doing my master's, but I'm a venture into business. He says, come to send into my office. Let's have a chat. And I had a laptop that was making noise that I carried. It was very heavy. I moved there. It's all about confidence in what you believe in. Yeah. I was not shy. I was very articulate in terms of the science I was talking about. I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't know the techno-economics. So he actually patched me right there. And that was a lesson for me. So I had to make a U-turn. And because he said, go to places like CSRR, they have infrastructure, you don't need 150 million. You just need to get in there and figure out how you develop technologies, then you can spin them out, and then I'll figure out how I fund you later. You may not need 150. So that is the journey that I took from that advice. So I was pitching for money, but I did not get money. I got advice that helped me to be where I am today. Otherwise, I would be going round and round and trying to figure out the techno-economics so that I can get the funds. But instead, I got the advice that helped me to navigate the journey. So for me, it was the confidence that I had, even arriving at CSR and telling the director directly that, here, I'm not here to be an intern, I'm here to start a business, please assist me. And no one goes to the director, especially as a junior, and you just knock at the door and you come in and you say, I'm looking for opportunity. It's all about the confidence and the desire and the drive of what you want to do. You do it no matter what. So that is the journey that I took. Thanks, Katie. And I know you were helping us with accounting when we started. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll go over to that side.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frederik Simon Augustine, but everybody calls me Frikkie, so feel free. I'm a second-year BCom law student at UP, and I'm in my second year as a candidate fellow as well. My question for all of you is that you're all very centered within your companies on creating social change and innovation, it seems, but at the same time, let's not lie, you're all very successful monetarily as well. So my question is, did it change at any point during the creation of your companies, or has it always been the same? But how do you balance profit versus social change and innovation? Does it change at different phases in the company, or is it always the same from start to finish?
And Melvin, are you still with us? Perhaps you can take a shot at that question.
No, and thank you very much, Frikkie, for the question. It's something which I often reflect on in terms of our core business and trying to understand, because we're in education. And I would argue that in order for us to have the impact we want to have profit-wise, we almost need to have, I would argue today, if you don't have a social compass, you won't go anywhere. Because you won't attract the right capital, you won't attract the right people, and the customers won't necessarily go on with that journey. And so for us, in our perspective, look, we built a fairly large business, but the reality is, if we didn't have a social drive, I would argue it'd probably be a tenth of the size we are today, because of the three things of attracting the right capital, the right people, and the right customers. And so it's been hand in hand. It was never a point of, oh, we're switching now between one or the other. But that being said, cash flow in any early business is real. And so that was very important for us to be on top of that. But I'd argue that the social side of things was front of mind even before we were thinking about the money. and even more so now the bigger we've gotten.
Can I just add to actually what Melvin had just mentioned is that, you know, and I think it's something that he, in his business, he continues to uphold, is that this one time I remember during my morning meditation, I remember I was like really so obsessed with like, oh my gosh, I want my company to be, you know, valued at $1 billion. And, you know, you almost like go on this trail of thought around like, you know, wanting to make X amount of money and be valued at this and be the top startup. And I really, guys, I went down a rabbit hole and I think I probably spent like 15, 20 minutes thinking about it. And I think at that point in time, like actually God intervened and he gave me a thought and he's like, Dineo, are we chasing value or valuation, right? Because in Africa, we can't afford to chase valuation only. And we sometimes think that these two things are mutually inclusive, and that's not the case, right? We've seen companies who, you know, have been, you know, valued at a high amount and have failed to deliver the value that they promised, right? And they ended up closing. But in Africa, guys, because there's so many challenges that we're facing, we can't afford to not chase the value. So yes, money is important, but let's not forget about the impact.
Great.
Hi, my name is Ukumkani, and I'm a candidate fellow from UCT. So my question is, anyone can take it really. It's basically, what are the elements in your company that are specifically there to build trust, specifically for Black African people? Because often we're not lucky enough to access good healthcare. And even when we do, we often we have bad experiences in terms of just how we're treated versus like other kinds of people. So what elements are there? I know you mentioned empathy, but what else do you specifically focus on to just ensure that Black African people really also get the same standard and quality of healthcare service? Thanks.
Yeah, I think if you look at the history of Africa, the pre-colonial Africa, the kind of diseases that were prone to the continent, and the kind of interventions. You know, I'm answering from, you know, a science perspective. Our environment is our healer in many ways. And the food that we consume from the environment actually sustains us. So in the midst of globalization, you know, we have solutions or medicines that were created outside of the continent using genomic data of that particular population. So if you look at what we call genetic profiling of different continents, is quite different, and the way in which you deliver the kind of medicine to each of those populations is a bit different. So we are few in the clinical studies as Africa, but I think there's an opportunity for us to use the current technologies, especially the fourth industrial revolutions, like Dineo is doing, to leapfrog the kind of research so that we're able to precisely have medication that respond to the African diseases. We've got Ebola in Africa, but it's not anywhere else. What this means is that we have diseases in Africa that are not responded to because they are only happening in Africa. So we have that dilemma that I think we need to sort of unbundle and make sure that we respond directly to the problems Africa faces.
Absolutely. Did anyone want to add anything?
Sure, I think Daniel's also just touched up a bit on the work that we're doing. Is we really want to be able to change healthcare in Africa. You know, a lot of the medications that we do receive are, you know, they were developed using Western genomic data. And what we want to do is now start incorporating African health data so that the pharmaceuticals that are developed are more effective on our population. So that's definitely, you know, our drive to say, guys, we actually matter. incorporate our data into the R&D process. And then more on a, you would say like a lower level, just in terms of how we offer our services. So as I mentioned, we also do pathology services, and we work with a team of like nurses and doctors. And we have a very strict rule as to, you will address everybody formally, sir and ma'am, irrespective of your age, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your social status and race. And that's just been that discipline that we've taught, that, everybody matters, irrespective, because sometimes, you can see maybe someone comes up and you think that that's not your customer, maybe because of the way that they're dressed, or, maybe because, you're like, black people can't afford the service, or whatever it may be. And we're like, we don't do that. We make sure that we treat everybody the same. And that's just one of the things that we have really just tried to inculcate in our company. And then lastly, something I'm really proud about is that, our team at some point was 75% female run, so that was really nice. So we will be opening up room for the guys as well, just so that you know.
If we can move over to that side.
Can you guys hear? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Simpiwe. I'm a candidate fellow studying at VIT. This question is for anyone, but I think it's focused more on Mr. Daniel, since he's focused in science. So just a bit of background. Being a science student, the general idea that I've had from high school going into university is that once you get your qualifications as a scientist, it's straight to the lab, and that's where you stay. But obviously, you being up there, it epitomizes that that's not the only possibility. So the question is that in the future, like you already having experience in the business while being a scientist, is that for like scientists that aspire to be someone like you, what sort of difficulties can we expect once we go in there? And if there are any difficulties, do you have any advice on how to tackle those obstacles, or maybe even better, how to just avoid them entirely?
Great stuff. First of all, no one will understand what you're saying. That's number one. Earlier on, I say that there aren't examples of biotechnology companies that are born out of the country that are sort of saturating the market that we can learn from. If you want to start a bank, you already have a reference point. If you want to start a consulting firm, you already have a reference point. If you want to start a biotechnology firm, it's few. Or some are not even relevant. So that's number one. So for me, the challenge that you face, first of all, is first for you to convince people about your technology. It's gonna be very hard. It's also gonna be very difficult to convince people about how the industry operates. That's the second one. But I think the biggest challenge that you're going to face will be to navigate the competition, because multinationals are quite entrenched in our market. And if you are a small player and you come with a technology that is innovative, they are likely to come at your door and want to buy you out. If they don't, they will use other tricks that I won't mention. So I've experienced that as well. So just be prepared to stick, to your guns, ensure that you pitch and pitch and pitch. And don't pitch for money only. Pitch for crystallization of your ideas. Pitch to other scientists who may have better knowledge about your field. Pitch to non-scientist people so that you make it crystal clear that you have a business case that you can propel forward. So that is my advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. May I just make a suggestion, because I'm mindful of time and we have about 10 minutes left. If you don't mind just chatting with each other to check if you've got similar questions or if you can combine them so that we maximize on time, because I see we've still got quite a number of people.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Naon Twilling. I'm from UCT. My first question is that when you guys were starting out, I want to know how, since you're both into biotech, I just wanted to know how did you go about prototype development? Because when you're starting a hard tech company whereby the solution which you're providing to the problem, it might not be, chances are that it might not be feasible. So now I want to understand how did you go about that process? And if it happens that you're studying a new technology, when you're studying a new technology, you find out most of the time, as you stated, that there is no literature to check or read. How can one overcome that difficulty? And when it happens that whereby you find yourself with limited technical skills, how can you overcome that? And secondly, I want to ask about leadership, especially when you're starting out, whereby you're looking for a team to work with. What is it that what are the qualities in which you're looking for? And when yourself, as a leader, you're starting a startup company, what qualities in which you should try to develop in order to create a successful startup? Thank you.
Maybe, Melvin, if you can touch on the leadership question.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
No, awesome. I think I missed the last part of the question. I only had the first part. What was the leadership question? Should you just recap it, Nonto?
Quickly.
For leadership, when you were starting out, when you were starting the startup, I was asking, how did you select the team in which you were first working with to develop the first prototype? And what are the qualities that you were looking for in that person? And what are the qualities in which, as a leader, you need to develop in order to create a successful startup? Yeah.
Yes. No, thank you very much for the clarity. I wasn't so sure. When you said prototype, I was thinking on the biological side. But it's interesting. What I look for hiring in my first employees and my first even co-founders in the business is the same things I hire for now. And for me, it's often one, alignment of vision, and I think to Dino's point earlier around purpose, because if we're motivated by the same objective, we'll get there together. I think two, a big thing is an ability to learn. I think in any of our businesses, especially high growth businesses, there's going to be lots of change. And so for me, I always wanted someone who had the learning mindset and not only being fit for task. And something which was also very true, especially early on, was there are many people who we hired who at the time couldn't afford in our business. And so almost thinking through what is the one, the high purpose I mentioned, but two, how they're able to see a longer term journey with the business. And so I would almost argue that you don't necessarily hire for the start of the business, but I hire for the life of the business. And so some of my early employees have now become senior VPs across our organization, but it was almost that alignment of values and principles, to having that learning mindset, and three, almost seeing a longer term view of them in the business was important. For me, it was also about complementary skill sets. So my co-founder was very much a software engineer, and I had a complementary skill set in terms of the business development, revenue, and growth. And so that was also a key thing for us thinking about our prototype.
Great. And at least Melvin answered one of your questions. Just to be fair to the other guys, this Rose question as well.
Hi, so this is mainly directed at the two bioscientists. So my question is in the context of antibiotic resistance. What role do you think that Africa will play in creating novel antibiotics in the future? And how do you think that indigenous and traditional medicinal knowledge can be incorporated into new research in this area? I know you guys kind of touched on it earlier, but we can discuss it later as well.
Sure, maybe let me touch on the antibiotic resistant, which is actually part of the work that we're doing. So what we also do is that we study the genome of viruses and bacteria to basically understand what causes them to become resistant. And the idea is to then be able to target certain areas of that genomic sequence for drug development. So right now what we're doing is we have a research partnership with a drug development company where we started off with COVID, where we actually studied the genome of COVID and we isolated a particular segment in its genomic structure to then say we are going to look for molecules that basically stop that particular segment of the COVID virus from operating. And then obviously then we'll be able to develop a drug based off of that. So, you know, once you've mastered it for one disease, it's then easier to master it for another disease. So we're looking at like TB, which is quite big. I mean, you know, we've got drug-resistant TB. That's also something that I'm very passionate about, especially because it's quite prone in Africa. So we want to be able to essentially use science and fourth IR technologies to be able to do that. And how we're doing it currently is that we're using artificial intelligence as well as, you know, genomic databases to be able to do that.
Great.
And the traditional medicine.
Yeah, I think the terminology is wrong. There's no traditional medicine. Medicine is medicine. Whether from the west or from the east, south, north is medicine. The difference is the administration or the formulation of the medicine and how it is administered to a patient. So, and now coming to your question around using traditional medicine, let me use that terminology again. It is very critical because, as I said earlier on, that we have symbiotic relationship with our environment, right? The food that we consume, the kind of herbs that we get from our environment sustain us. So what we're doing as a company is to look at the genomic data from the environment and develop these novel enzymes and therapeutics out of that, from that environment. If you look at Eastern Cape, for example, the kind of the TB strain that exists there is different from the rest of the country. How do we leverage on environmental genomics to ensure that we respond to that resistance that you're talking about? So that's a kind of science. It's a bit of deep science. And we also use machine learning. It's a convergence of bioinformatics and deep learning. And we have built phase 1. We are currently doing phase 2. Phase 3, we'll be looking at the compounds from some of these traditional herbs that were used to look specifically to the resistance issue.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I'd
you.
love to talk to you about this as well.
So just last question, because we are just tight for time, because we do have individuals joining us for online sessions, and we'll be starting promptly at 12:30 for that. So I will take the last question that side.
Hello everyone. Thank you to the speakers for taking your time to share your insights with us. I'm sure all of us have gained something profound from what it is you had to say. My name is Tafara Mkombe, by the way. I am a year experience candidate fellow. And my question is around the practicality of being an entrepreneur. So just a brief disclaimer, I'm a very firm believer in the fact that all ideas have power, right? I think every single idea has some type of value in it. I think that the problem is executing on that value. And so my question is, as someone who strongly believes in the value of your idea, how do you know, or when do you know, where to draw the line on whether or not that idea will be successful or not? Because obviously, as you mentioned, Daniel, you're pitching the idea to a lot of people. You're getting a lot of criticism, both constructive, sometimes destructive. And as someone who is holding on tightly to this idea, sometimes it's easy to let go. And so where do you draw the line? And this is a question to the panel. Anyone can take the question. Thank you.
Yeah. Since you mentioned my name, let me start. Obsession with ideas is danger. You need to be very flexible to changes that come from the advices that you get. And the biggest mistake that we make as innovators, we innovate thinking that the market wants what we are innovating, right? You develop it, you spend time, you convince people to put money in your idea. When you get to the market says, no, we're not interested. So what we are doing in our distribution and sales division is that we look at the market, we interact with the market, we figure out what the market wants, and then we design a framework and a matrix. Basically we work backwards. Instead of starting with the technology and going to the market, we start with the market and going to the technology. That way, you may find that what you're thinking has to change because of the market dynamics and the demands and the needs, the structure, the formulation, etc. So you have to start with the market and then work backwards to the innovation. That way, you'll ensure success. Hopefully.
No, thank you very much for the questions, and to our panel, thank you very much, Daniel, Dineo, and Melvin online. We really appreciate your insights. We really were hoping that with this discussion, you would get to see part of yourselves in them and be inspired as well to pursue the journey that the foundation is working with you on. And so with that, I thank you for your participation and engagement, and would like to hand over back to our MCs, who will just give us announcements regarding lunch as well as the online sessions that will be happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Daniel, Nontando, Marvin. Thank you so much for your words. They're really touching. I personally took a lot from your kind words and the advice. And one thing I'll definitely be taking away is that you should always believe in yourself, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with being different. And that each and every one of us in this room has potential to change the world. And it's awesome. It really, really is. Thinking about it, I'm looking at so many people, and I'm like, well, Africa is going to change.
Wow.
And we will be responsible to make that change. One of the things that we should remember is that even though we are encouraged to constantly pitch, we're not pitching with one initiative. Sometimes you might just be pitching to get resources. You might be pitching to even gain another partner. It's not always about the money. And we shouldn't be apologetic when we make money, because one of the main fundamentals of starting a business is to make a profit. It may not be the most important part, but it is an important aspect. So thank you so much.
All right, just in terms of logistics, to everyone who's watching online, you have a 10-minute break, and then after 10 minutes, you will be continuing on with your session. So your clock should be going up sometime now.